Hi, in this LindaFit Pilates ball workout, we're going to build what we learned on in the basic and beginner workout. So come join me. Remember, all you need is a chair or a countertop to press on. The very first thing we want to do really is just to warm up the calves. So I'm going to turn to my bar. I stand with my elbows slightly bent, and I'm going to start my prancing. So I start to prance in place, and this is to warm up my feet. It's to get my calves ready for the workout. And I'm breathing, inhaling, exhaling, prancing through my feet, pressing into my toes. And I do one foot, then the other. And you can see I'm nice and tall in my spine. I've got my belly muscles pulled in, my tailbone tucked down towards my heels. And then I'm going to come down and I'm just going to bend my knees so I get a nice knee over foot position. I'm going to straighten. I'll bring my left leg back. I'm going to take a nice stretch in my calves. So as I reach my heel back, I take my left arm out and I'm going to go up and over. I'm opening up the left side of my waist, stretching my left calf, breathing, and then I come back to center. Then I'm going to take my right leg back. I press back through the heel. I'm going to reach my right arm out. And I go up and over, stretching the other side, pressing back straight through my heel. Feels so nice. And I make sure that I get that heel into the floor. My left knee is bent, and again, I'm standing nice and tall. And then I'll bring my leg back in. So that's just to prepare me to warm up my calves. And now watch, I'm going to turn to the side so you can see this one more clearly. And I'm going to alternate feet. And I'm actually lifting my toes and alternating. Right, it's almost like toe taps, and this is going to warm up the fronts of my shins, right, because those muscles are important too. So I lift, and I make sure that I spread my toes and lift up completely through the foot, anchoring through the heel, and you'll feel this in the front of the shins. And again, this is part of our warm-up for the feet. You'll get the most from your workout if you warm up a little bit. All right. Now we'll continue here. I'll now stretch out the front of the shin, and by grabbing my foot and pulling in, I'll stretch out my front shin, but I'm going to stretch out my front thigh as well. So I get a nice quad stretch, and this is going to be so important for some of the work we're going to do at our bar today. And you breathe, pulling your heel towards your bottom, and you pull your navel in, and then I'll do the other side. Maybe I'll turn so you can get a better view here on the other side. And again, I do my best to get my heel close towards my bottom. I don't want to force it, but I'm hoping that I can get a nice stretch through the front of my shin as I pull gently on my toes and my heel towards my bottom. I feel this nice stretch in my front thigh. All right, so we're really now getting ready to begin. So we come face our bar again. This time we're going to start with the plie and we're going to build. And we've done this in the basic workout. We're going to bend the knees, lift the heels, straighten the legs, and lower. And I bend, I lift, I straighten, I lower. When I bend, I keep a nice tall spine. I straighten, I lower, and I bend, I lift, straighten, and lower. Bend, lift, straighten, lower. One more bend, lift, straighten, and lower. Now I'm going to reverse that action. I'm going to lift up, bend, bring my heels down, and straighten. I lift, I bend, lower my heels, and straighten. Again, nice tall spine, bend, lower, and straighten. I lift, I bend, I lower, I straighten. I lift, bend, lower, straighten. One more time. Lift, bend, lower, and straighten. Now I'm going to lift, lower, lift, lower. So you'll be happy that you stretch those calves because you feel this a lot in the calves, helping to lift the body. But I'm also keeping a nice tall spine. I push down on my bar, down into my 10 toes. I lift, lower, lift, lower, lift, lower. Each time I lift, I feel my calf muscles engaging, helping to lift my body. But I'm also lifting my seat, my spine. I'm breathing. And I think of pushing down through my feet and up through my head. And then the last one, we're going to stay and hold at the top. I lift up tall through the head, pressing down on the bar gently, down through my feet. And now watch, I'm going to add a little set of pulse, 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 pulse. So this is where we get a little bit of some new information because we're adding this pulse and my knees are bent, my heels are lifted, and my spine is nice and tall. I'm pressing down on the bar. I'm lifting tall through the top of my head. Pulse, 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 pulse. I lift up nice and tall just for a release, lifting my kneecaps, pressing down through my toes, lifting the heels, and we're going to do it again. This time I get a little bit deeper. Pulse, pulse. Now, just because I'm going deeper doesn't mean to change my form. So my tail is dropped, my spine is long, and I'm pulsing, but just trying to maintain a slightly deeper bend in my knee, the same lift through my heels, and I still think of up through the top of the head, nice and tall. Pulse, 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 pulse. I'm going to hold the pulse, breathe there. Here's where you feel the burn. This is why sometimes we call it the bar burn. And then I'm going to straighten up. Oh, thank goodness. And when I straighten, I feel all those thigh muscles get a little rested for a moment as I come into that nice straight plumb line. And in the plumb line, you'll feel almost a moment of rest, because when you're all aligned, it's a little bit easier, right, in terms of feeling the balance through the body. So if I can, I have one arm up, I'm going to bring the other arm up, and I breathe, I drop my shoulders, and just as we do in the ballet, we curve the arms just a little bit for grace, and I have my shoulder over my hip, hip over my knee over my foot. I'm going to roll through the feet, and then I come down. Whew, that was difficult. So we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to add a rotation. So watch, I'm going to turn out my feet into a small first position, belly muscles in, tall through the top of the head. We go out again. We're going to bend the knees, lift the heels, straighten, and lower. I bend, lift the heels, straighten, and lower. Bend, lift the heels, straighten, lower. Bend, lift my heels, straighten, lower. Bend, lift my heels, straighten, and I'm going to hold here. This time I get a real chance to feel my inside thighs squeezing towards each other. I'm breathing, and now I'm going to start by lower lift, lower lift. And as I lower lift, I push down into those feet, and I feel those inner thighs squeezing together, especially as I lower. I feel the squeeze underneath my butt, tailbone drop to the floor, tall spine. I lower lift, lower lift. I'm pressing down through my feet, down onto my bar, lower lift, lower lift, lower lift, lower lift, hold. I breathe. Now watch, we're going to reverse the action. We're going to bend the knees, roll through the feet, and straighten. I lift, I bend, I lower my heels, straighten. Push down, bend, lower, straighten, lift, bend, lower, straighten, lift, bend, lower, straighten. Just a few more. This is where it gets a little challenging. We've got to go straight up, bend, slowly lower, straighten, lift, bend, slowly lower, straighten, and lift, and bend, and slowly lower and straighten. Now we're going to lift, but this time, watch, I change the position a little. I'm going to actually bring my heels together to touch. I squeeze my butt, my inner thighs are zipped up, like we like to say in the ballet, and we're going to do the pulses again. Pulse, 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 pulse. So now as you pulse, your feedback is two heels squeezing together and your knees staying over the centers of the feet. My butt is straight to the floor, not sticking out, and my spine is tall. Now what helps here is this gentle pressing down on your countertop, your chair, or if you're lucky to have a ballet bar, you pulse, 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 and there's always a sense of lift, 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 because I never want to totally sink into this. So although I'm bending, there is a counter lift which sustains the movement. Then I'm going to hold. Now here's that burn part. When I hold here, I'm just going to stay a little bit lower here and breathe. And I'm going to add a new action. Since my legs are turned out, I'm going to bring them a little forward, and I'm going to pulse them back, and pulse them back, and pulse them back, and pulse them back. So you can see my thigh goes slightly forward, and then I press it back, and press it back, press it back, press it back, press it back. And I'm breathing, squeezing my heels. Whoa, and you feel this all in your deep rotators. You're going to feel the stretch across those inner thigh and groins. And press, 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 press. Try not to let your shoulders creep up. Try to keep breathing, maintaining that sense of lift in your spine as you press your legs out. And then you're going to hold here, and let's see if we can go just a little deeper. And this is where that burn really starts to kick in. I want to feel my thighs wide, my heels squeeze, that I sustain that lift. I'm breathing, and I do another little set of pulse, 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 pressing those thighs out, out, out. Breathe. 4, 3, 2, 1. And guess what? We're going to straighten up. Oh boy, does that feel good. Now when I lift up, I try to lift my kneecaps, my thighs, my toes push down, my heels squeeze together, inner thighs together, and I bring my arms up for a nice balance. And I bring the other arm up again. Do I have that nice straight line so I can balance? And I breathe, and then I'm going to bring my hands down. I'm going to open my feet, and I'm going to slowly lower. I'm going to take a nice plie and straighten. I'm going to plie and take a side bend, up and over, stretching my side, getting my heels down. I'm going to lift, and then I plie, wide knees, and I go up and over, and then I come back to center, and I straighten up. All right, we're going to continue. This time we had progressed a little by bringing one hand to the bar. I'm going to open up into a small first position. Doesn't have to be huge, but you feel that your inside thighs, knees, and your lower legs are all coming forward this way. And it happens all the way up here from the hip. My tail drops, my abs lift, and I bring my arm to the second position, which is just simply out to your side, and the elbow is lifted and curved. Watch the action. We learned this in the beginner bar workout. We're going to point out and in, out and in. So shoot it out and in. It's straight out and in. It's not behind you. It's straight out, in, straight out, in. So let's try. Hand presses down. We go out and in, out and in, out and in, out and in. Again, out and in, out and in, out and in, out, plie. I do the other side. Out and in, out and in, out and in, out and in. One more set, and in, out and in, out and in, out, plie. Come to straight. Now I'm going to take it off the floor. I'm going to shoot it out and in, out and in, out and in, out and in. We call that a dégagé. Out and in, out and in, out and in, out, plie. Other side, out and in, out and in. Really shoot it out. Nice straight knee, out and in. One more, out, in, out, in. Nice straight knee, pointed toes, out, plie. Whew. We do it one more time. All right, we'll start again with the first one, which was tendu. Out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in. Right to the other side. Out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in. Now dégagé. In, out, 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 plie. All right, we're going to turn and do this whole thing to the other side. So I bring my arm into the second position. I start with the tendu. I'm going to breathe. I go out and in, out and in, out and in, out and in. One more set. Out and in, out and in, out and in, out, plie. When you plie, stay tall. Don't sit. Other side. Out, in, out, in, out, in, out and in and out, in, out, in. Stand tall. In, out, plie. Dégagé. This is one where the leg shoots out and in, out and in. Almost like you're trying to get something off the floor, and out and in. And one more. Out, out and in, out and in, out, plie. Other side. Out, in, out, in. Make sure you're far enough from your chair or counter. Out and in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, plie. We do one more. Out and in. Back to the tendu. Out and in and out and in, and out and in, out and in, out and in, out. We'll add a plie. Dégagé out, dégagé out, dégagé out, dégagé in, dégagé out, dégagé out, dégagé out, dégagé and in. All right, your heart should be going. Breathe. We're going to add something on this side. We come back to the first position. We're going to bring the arms out. We're going to bring the arm to second. The leg points out to second, and we're going to point and plie, and point, plie, point, plie, and point, plie. Again, point. Big plie, wide knees, point, plie, and point, plie. Now we're going to hold here. We're in the second position, and we're going to pulse, pulse. 3, 4. Wide knees. Good. Knees over the feet. And another set. Pulse, 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 and pulse. Now, see if you can lift your heels and lower. Lift your heels and lower. Lift and lower. Lift, keeping those knees wide. And one more set. Lift and lower. Lift and lower. 2 heels lift simultaneously. Lift and lower. And one more set. Pulse, pulse. 3, 4. Wide knees. 5, 6. Get a little lower. 7, 8. Tailbone tucked. Abs in. Tall spine. Pulse, pulse, and pulse. And now straighten up. Come into releve. Lift up. Lift those kneecaps. Push into your toes. Relax the shoulders. And plie. We do it to the other side. So I stand in my first. My arm opens to second. I'm going to point, plie, wide second. Point, plie, wide second. Point, plie, wide second. And point, plie, wide second. I do it again. Point, plie, knees wide. Point, plie, tailbone down. Point, plie, and point, plie. Hold. Now I stay with my knees wide, shoulders relaxed, and I have my pulses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You'll feel those nice inner thighs opening up, the muscles wrapping around, and so good for your butt. Pulse, 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 pulse. We hold. We try to keep that nice tall spine. Don't let your butt stick out. Keep your tailbone down. And now watch. We're going to breathe and pulse, and we lift and lower, lift and lower, lift and lower, lift and lower. One more set. Lift, lower. These are hard. Keep the knees wide, the heels lifted, and lift, lower, lift, lower, lift, lower, lift, and lower, and lift, lower, lift, lower, lift, lower, lift, and lower. Last set. Wide knees, knees over feet. Pulse. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more time. Spread those knees wide. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here's your break. You stretch up, pull those kneecaps up, press down into your feet. Now push down into the bar. Come to that beautiful releve. Shoulders are locked, toes pushing down. I breathe, and I come on down. I'm going to come to my bar. I'm going to end with a nice side stretch. I'm going to go up and over, opening up that side body again. I come to center. I go up and over. I'm going to bend my knees. I'm going to come down slowly, drop my head. I roll up one vertebra at a time. I lift my arms. I take a nice arch back, tucking the tail, bringing the gaze to the ceiling. I open the arms. Whew. And I hope you enjoyed that LindaFit Pilates bar workout. I look forward to seeing you in future workouts.